it's me Nami again, and today we're going to be doing something different from the usual videos. I normally just talk about my writings, about music and about the places I visit, but today I would like to do something different and I would like to tell you a story. So very often my dad tells these simple stories, really simple, but they're very thought-provoking. And there are a lot that I really like, and today I would like to tell you one that I really like. When my dad tells these stories, we just discuss about them for hours and hours and discuss what the moral is. But for this story, we'll be going 2500 years back to the age of Buddha. That's right, to the age of our favorite master Buddha. So one morning, Buddha and his chief disciple Ananda were walking in a small village, and Ananda, in fact, is way older than Buddha. He's Buddha's cousin's brother. And when Buddha was in his initialization as a monk, Ananda had come to Buddha and he had three conditions. One condition was that he would always be with Buddha. Even when Buddha was sleeping, Ananda would like to be in that room. And another condition was that he would always send people, three of his friends, to ask him questions, and Buddha would have to answer all of them. So when Buddha and Ananda were walking, one person, a friend of Ananda, came to Buddha and he asked, God exists, right? And he was so sure, but Buddha said, so he actually thought for a while and he said, no. Ananda got a little angry because he had devoted his whole life to Buddha, thinking that he believes in God, and now suddenly Buddha said that God doesn't exist. He got shocked, but he remained in silence because Buddha was a good master and he knew what to do. So the two of them continued walking for a couple more kilometers, and then another person came, another friend of Ananda, and he asked, God doesn't exist, right? To that also, he said no. Ananda got confused and also more angry because when the first person had asked Buddha if God does exist, he had said no. And now when this person is asking God doesn't exist, Buddha is also saying no. So it was all a big complication and Ananda was angry at Buddha, but he still remained silent. And then Buddha and Ananda continued walking, and then the third person came and asked Buddha, does God exist or not? And Ananda looked at Buddha for the answer, and Buddha thought for a while and he said, I don't know. And that's it. Ananda became so mad. He became like the two people standing right here. He was so mad. He was infuriated. And he asked Buddha, what are you doing? When the first person asked if God exists, you said no. And then the second person asked if God doesn't exist, and you also said no. That means the first is incorrect. And if the first is correct, then the second is incorrect. And now the third one is the most infuriating. You are saying that you don't know. Then why did you answer to the first two in the first place? Ananda was so mad, but then Buddha was just like this and he smiled to Ananda and he said, no, you don't understand. You're making a mistake, Ananda. And he said, the first person was already sure that God exists. Someone had told him that God exists and he had really blind beliefs. So when he asked if God exists, I said no. So then he would go searching because he was confused if God exists or not. Then the second person had come and he was the same as the first person. He had asked if God doesn't exist. So I had also said no because he was actually the same as the first in the opposite way. He was sure that God doesn't exist. And the third person then came and he was the most intelligent of the three because he didn't know if God exists or not and he was already searching. And when he asked Buddha didn't want to spoil his search. So he had said, I don't know. Then he would have thought, oh, even Buddha doesn't know. I'll continue with my search. Then Ananda finally understood what Buddha had been trying to do. So me and my dad discussed about the story for a long while after my dad told it to me. And so the moral of the story is you should always be a seeker. Don't just randomly believe what people put in front of you and put a blind belief on it. This is causing a lot of problems in the world. When someone puts a news in the social media and you believe it and then there comes a fight, there are so much things just happening related to God just because everyone has a blind belief. But you should never just believe what people say to you. You should always be a seeker and search for your own truth, because you have to be the one searching. You can't believe everything or else there will just be problems. But that's the moral of the story. And my dad also has his own interpretation of this story, which is also very interesting. So actually, when someone asks a question, the answer should not be to that question, but it should be to the person who asks the question. If you're confused, remember what Buddha did. He said to the first person, he said something to the first person and he said something else to the second and to the third, because they all had a different thought. And my dad does that too a lot. Earlier I was really confused and I always laughed at him for doing that. But after listening to the story, I finally understood. Anyways, guys, hopefully you enjoyed this story. I had a lot of fun talking to you about it. If you like this, I will tell a lot more stories to you, because me and my dad have a lot of stock. We talk a lot, so I can always tell you more stories. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe if you like this, because then you will always get notified if more stories come. And it's me, Nami.